Amendment proposed, page 80, line 9, at end insert the words as printed on the marshalled list.
My Lords, I'm pleased to have added my name to this amendment in the name of Lady Noakes. I'd like to start by thanking my noble friend, the Minister, for all the hard work she has done to bring us this far and for her sympathetic approach to the House. I'd also like to thank her for something I hadn't really expected to see on behalf of the government. The process of drafting legislation is normally arcane and obscure. It's carried out by civil servants and parliamentary draftsmen before anything ever reaches us. But in this case, this rare bill, we've actually seen the legislation being drafted and redrafted further, time and time again as it progresses, with literally hundreds of government amendments, such that it's been very difficult to follow what's going on, but illuminating as to how laws are actually made, something which I think Bismarck said the public should never see, if that's a warning to that's helpful advice to my noble friend. In committee, I gave an example of how the TECAL exemption works and how I'd experienced it myself during my many years in local government. The TECAL exemption is the EU legal name for the vertical exemption, where local authorities or public bodies come together in order to establish a subsidiary controlled entity, and there are rules and limits as to what it can do outside percentages of work and effort and so on that show whether it qualifies for that exemption, so that the local authorities in question don't have to tender it publicly. There are examples, of course, here, further examples which I didn't mention, in relation to horizontal relations between public bodies and local authorities. I find myself, quite by chance, sitting within a foot or two of the noble Lord Greenhalgh, who had the privilege and honour of being the leader of Hammersmith and Fulham Council in the past, when I had a modest role to play at an adjacent local authority. And one of the things we did was to come together to share many of our services between ourselves and a further local authority, a third one in some cases. And this was an example of horizontal collaboration, so that, for example, highway services, library services, and things of that sort became shared. Now, I simply want to say to my noble friend that I think this will be ruled out under the reasonableness test, because let us say you are a local authority and you wish to share services, you wish to, or contract services in some cases, to the local authority to your west. It is, of course, reasonable that the local authority to your east, assuming you're not entirely surrounded by one local authority, could equally well provide those services. So this is not simply about the private sector being an alternative to collaboration. It would be reasonable for another local authority to provide those services rather than this local authority. Well, if that was the case, you'd be stymied. You wouldn't be able to do it without having a tendering process. The clause is so badly drafted, I think it completely puts an end to horizontal arrangements. It's a very simple matter. I think my noble friend Lady Noakes has put it very well. It's a very simple matter to correct this. It's not the government's intention, I'm sure, to tie everybody up in knots in this way. And it would be very simple for my noble friend on the front bench simply to say that Lady Noakes has got this absolutely right, and that at third reading she'll be bringing forward an amendment in just those terms so that we can solve this and put it to bed.
My Lords, speak very briefly, just a couple of things before I speak to Amendment 9.